Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. You remember yesterday we were talking about free speech in the UK. We're talking about this issue with Graham Linehan. And he made these tweets and then got arrested when he got to Heathrow Airport by the British police. 5 armed policemen had to arrest this dangerous, scary guy because he wrote a couple tweets on X. Now, a lot of people in the US are going kind of crazy over this because it boggles our minds that you could get arrested for writing something so benign. We write things far worse than what this guy has written, and no one's in fear of getting arrested. If the lefties have their way here, they would love to arrest people for saying things that they don't like. That's like a wet dream. They're loving this kind of stuff in the UK. They're just like, I wish I could get in on that. I wish we could make America that way so that all the little special interest groups that I have and that I represent and that I like get protected from this. And then those special interest groups can say whatever the hell they want to everybody else, and everybody has to just put up with it. So I wanted to just go over again here what Graham said and what was such a big deal about it. So this is one of them. I think this might have been the third one. If a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he is committing a violent, abusive act. Make a scene, call the cops. If all else fails, punch him in the balls. He's a comedian. He's making a joke. He's obviously not a huge fan of the trans community, but it is a joke. He gets arrested for incitement to violence for something like this, and it's not, this happened back in April. He posted this and he gets arrested 5 months later. I know he was out of the country, he was in the US. And when he got back to the UK, they arrested him. Now, in that time, did this tweet cause any violence towards trans people? I doubt it. Who the fuck is going to go out and commit a bunch of violent acts against trans people because Graham Linehan said punch them in the balls if they're in the women's restroom? Nobody. What a ridiculous a straw man argument. It's simply the UK government does not like free speech because free speech is a powerful tool for the people to use to keep the government in check. And they don't want to give up any of that power. That's why I'm so glad to be in the US, where it's a very First Amendment that is so important. That's the very first one, and there isn't anything the government jackasses can do about it. They try, but we believe in it too deeply. So what else did he say? This is one of the other ones. This makes no sense to me. I think this is maybe like a pride parade or something, pride rally. He said, a photo you can smell. How's that an incitement to violence? How is that? Nobody's going to be violent because he's calling them smelly. And here's the other one. I hate them, misogynists and homophobes. Fuck them. Well, he probably actually believes that they are that. You know, you can find the trans community and the gay community, gay and lesbian community, they do not get along. The gay and lesbian community is not a fan of the trans people, and they think that they've gone way too far, that they're normalizing fetishes, and they're roping in the gay and lesbian community with them, and they don't want to go along with them. They don't have anything in common. These are two totally different groups of people. And so, you know, there's a lot of pushback there. Now, misogynist thing, I think there's a strong case that could be made for that, because these men who identify as women they're hijacking female spaces. And they're in this weird leftist pecking order of who's the most marginalized, most oppressed. They're the ones that we have to elevate and protect and care about the most, and everybody else can piss off. the trans have leapt ahead of females, so they're a more noble cause, and so they've taken over the position that women had. If you guys want to, you can comment, and I'll look at the comments and I'll reply as best I can. If you guys are listening or watching on X, come on over to YouTube and you can put in comments, ask questions, clarify some things for me. So what do you guys think? I mean, is this incitement to violence? He's not calling for violence. The closest thing he said was punch them in the balls if they go into the women's restroom. So how is it not? It seems pretty obvious that it would be worse for a man to go into the women's restroom than to say punch a man in the balls. So anyway, so then what's interesting about this is J.K. Rowling, right, had a bunch of pushback about, the trans issue. And these are the things that people wrote to her. And I'm curious if the UK government has gone and investigated each one of these instances to make sure that these people who are inciting violence toward J.K. Rowling are in jail and imprisoned, because this is some dangerous shit right here. Now, maybe all these people are from the U.S. or from some other country. I find that hard to believe. And maybe they have looked into some of these and arrested them. I don't know. I would find that hard to believe as well, because J.K. Rowling is not really part of the special privileged group in the UK of Muslims, migrants, asylum seekers, trans, gay, all that. She's just a white woman, right? So that's not that high on the pecking order. That's not on the hierarchy. She's not really, she's, like mid-tier. And so, but anyway, let's look at what some of these morons wrote to her. Bitch, I'll kill you over a difference of opinion about a political or social issue. Bitch, I'll kill you. I know people online are over the top a lot of times, but when is J.K. Rowling gonna die already? Tired of her transphobic ass. Kill J.K. Rowling. Death of the author this, death of the author that. Can someone pussy up and kill J.K. Rowling already? Kill, 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 kill. These are all trans leaning activists or people in favor of it who think that she was a horrible person for saying anything and opposing their ideology. And the first place their mind goes is, kill. She needs to die. She disagrees with us. Kill her. That's sick. Now, I think, being in the U.S., that you should be able to say this kind of stuff and show the kind of person that you really are. Because look, now these people are complete idiots. Stay away from these people. They're unhinged. They're lunatics. They're crazy. They're wackos. So, but no, instead, they arrest Graham, and they don't do anything to defend J.K. Rowling because they have a two-tier policing system. It just doesn't matter if you're a British citizen and you're just a regular person. You get nothing. Now, if you're some weird marginalized group or something that it has special privileges from the government, it's about the government maintaining their power. Then the government's going to step in. They're going to shut it down. So anyway, I find this really, really disgusting, this injustice. If you're going to have laws like this, then apply them equally. See, there's no rule of law going on in the UK right now. It's this selective bias. We'll enforce it in this scenario. We won't enforce it in that scenario. We'll have harsher penalties for these kind of people in this scenario, and then those kind of people in the same scenario will have lesser punishments. Right? This is what the people are so upset about. It's ridiculous. If you're going to have a rule, then apply it to everybody. Rule of law. Justice is blind. So anyway, in the U.S. we're getting worked up over this because we just can't believe somebody would get arrested for something so stupid. Straight phobia, yeah, right. Let's see, what else did I have here for you? There's a lot going on. So not only is there that in the UK, and this live isn't going to be just about the UK, but there's a lot going on over there, and it's catching the attention of us over here. So I want to address some of it. Let's see, where's this other one that I was looking for? Okay. Okay, yeah. So because like there's this kind of stuff going on. You know, this guy assaults a girl.
Been in the country 3 years. Come over on a bike.
Been in the country for 3 years.
This all to me on camera. Has just sexually assaulted a female in the middle of Sheffield city centre, town centre. I don't know which one.
In the middle of the day.
Assaults a girl. Get his face well known. Get his face well known.
He's not even bothered by it, really. He's just kind of calm. No big deal. You know, and this stuff's a daily occurrence. And do you think that this guy's going to get some harsh punishment like he probably deserves? He's not. Everybody knows it. He's going to get a slap on the wrist. He's going to be sent back out into society. Somebody else is going to be harmed. Then it's going to be another headline. And then maybe they'll do something about it after it happens a few times. But if this guy was a British citizen, just an everyday normal Brit, and he did something like this, well, he wouldn't see the light of day. And I get it. I mean, I would be pissed about that too. And here's another example. This is going on there too. You get groups. This is the Muslim Defense League.
No peaceful thing to speak.
Wow.
Suppose any of these guys are going to get arrested. But in this one, I see if one of those guys came across that line and got into a fight with this guy in the Navy shirt, who do you think the police would arrest? And who do you think would get the harsher punishment? I guarantee it would be this guy in the blue shirt. I mean, it's crazy. You know, when you police and you run a country and you make laws based on things like, you know, your white guilt complex or the history of bad actions that your ancestors caused, you know, then you're gonna get weird policing, because that's a weird way to make a law. So, you know, they're trying to make up for these, you know, the original sins of their country with segregation and slavery and colonialism and all that kind of stuff. So what they're doing is they're punishing their current day citizens, basically the white British citizens, because of what happened hundreds of years ago, and now they're making reparations for it. And that's why the Muslims should have preferential treatment, because they're not that. That's why the trans should have preferential treatment, because they're not that. And those people, the white Brits, whose family go back hundreds of years, they're tainted. They're bad. They can't be the victim because their ancestors so victimized everybody else. And when you start making laws like that, you start discriminating, you start oppressing, you start making it based on laws based on race. So you start making racist laws, you start making sexist laws, you start making all these weird laws. Bad shit's going to happen. People are not going to like that. Either way, so these people think they're defending the vulnerable, even though in this picture, look at how massive the crowd is of this Muslim Defense League. But they're still somehow, they're going to be the victims no matter what happens. And so let's see, what else do we got here? So not only are they giving Muslims preferential treatment in the legal system. Hold on. Oh, yeah. I think this is a good point. What about the left pushing the it's okay to shoot a CEO garbage? They claim to be humanists, but think it's okay to shoot someone outside the echo chamber. Shouldn't these idiots be arrested too? Well, yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. I love how the all compassionate humanists really don't like a lot of humanity, honestly. About 50% of it, they hate them. But they're for all people, and they love everybody. And they immediately go to violence. Like the left has really gotten violent. They've always been the side of violence, but they've really gotten more emboldened. The rich get cheaper costs for workers and we get multiculturalism. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's really not a concern at all of these leaders for the everyday person. Not for the everyday citizen. That is the bottom rung of the ladder. That's as low as you can get, would be to be a white British citizen whose family has lived there for generations. You're at the very bottom of the totem pole. So they're not going to take those people into consideration. Why would they? That doesn't align with their ideology. So then they got to start doing weird shit like this. They're going to build 40,000 housing units specifically for Muslims, because Muslims want to live close to their mosque, and they want to be close to halal restaurants and all this kind of shit. So they're going to make, based on a religion, they're going to build specific housing. They're going to discriminate against people who are not of that ethnicity and religion. And somehow this is not bigotry. They're not going to let the white everyday British guy live here. These are specifically for Muslims who aren't even citizens. So, and of course, I mean, you got Khan here, who's you know who he is.
The other big issue faced in London, particularly Londoners of Islamic faith, is the issue of housing. And so we need to build far more.
Why do you suppose there's an issue with housing in their community? Maybe because you let so many of them into your country and you already didn't have enough housing. So the issue is you've brought too many in. And now the people who live there are having problems with housing too. So instead of actually addressing your own citizens lack of housing. What you're going to do is you're going to build housing for people who aren't even from your country. That's what you're going to put taxpayer money towards. Sure, maybe they'll move out of certain apartments and things that then your citizens can come and live in, so it will free up housing in that way. But then they're going to build the new stuff for the people who don't even pay for it.
Homes in our city, because often people from minority communities want to live near a mosque, near halal food, near places where there are other people like them. So they for a variety of obvious reasons, and they're priced out because there's not enough housing. So
okay, so what if the British citizens would say, you know what, we want to make a whites only community, and we want it to be just surrounded with our ethnic food and around churches, no Muslims allowed, no transgender people allowed, none of that. It's just for straight white people and you who've been here for, or whatever. This would be totally unacceptable, completely unacceptable. And I agree, that's unacceptable for the government to build housing areas like that. But when it comes to these minority groups, it's virtuous and it's noble, and they pat themselves on the back and they don't see that they're actually being racists and bigots.
we're going to build at least 40,000 council homes, at least 6,000 rent control homes. And the final thing to say in relation to Londoners who are Muslim is, look.
Fucking fuming. Sorry, I keep swearing. Sadiq Khan, he's just
She better watch herself. She's going to get arrested.
announced. I've got to read it because he's just announced a new proposal to build 40,000 new council homes, specifically prioritised for Muslims under the Muslim housing plan. They're to be built near mosques and halal shops. Am I hearing that right? Is that not divisive? Is that inclusivity?
Right.
Can you imagine if we made an announcement that the government are building 40,000 new homes, but they're going to prioritise them for non-Muslims or Christians?
Yeah. So she's saying the same thing I was saying. Yeah, that would never, no, because that's bigoted. But keeping this woman out of it and keeping her separated is not bigotry. See, the double standard, if these politicians, and it's not just the leftists, but mostly, if the left didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. Because that's all they do all day long is make two-tier policing, double standard housing. Oh, well, if you don't rent to a Muslim, well, then you're breaking the law and we're going to throw you away. You're going to lose your licenses. You're going to lose your properties. You're going to whatever because that. But it's okay for us to discriminate against you because, we think that we're the good guys for it. It's so stupid. It's not. People are so tired of this crap. And I do not blame them one bit. So, yeah, you make a good point here. What about building homes for homeless vets? Not even a consideration. Wouldn't even cross their minds. Not even a, don't even realize that that's a thing. Because they couldn't care less because those vets aren't some weird minority group that's in their fantasy world being oppressed by everybody. So let's see what else I got here. So it's just a really interesting thing that's going on there. And then there's an outbreak of conservatism and nationalism in Europe because of this kind of crap. And then they're scratching their heads wondering why that's going on. Okay, yeah, here's another good example. Okay, South Yorkshire police gave no arrest deal to Rotherham grooming gang ringleader. if you guys remember this Rotherham grooming gang problem. And so no arrest deal. The guy who's the ringleader of a group that's raping girls. That's okay. He's what I mean, what are we going to do? He's a minority. He's an outsider. He doesn't realize it. He's part of an oppressed group. He's put in all the buzzwords that these idiots always like to use. And then this kid over here waves an English flag near North Yorkshire Islamic Center, and he gets thrown in jail for waving a flag. Oh, because that's incitement to violence and that's hate speech and blah, 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 blah. Trying to get the crowd riled up. This grooming gang guy's not trying to get a crowd riled up. He's not inciting anybody to violence. He's just actually doing violence, which is not as bad as inciting people to violence. That's way worse, right? It's just idiotic. And then you're going to start getting stuff like this. I mean, this is in Ireland here. We got Conor McGregor who's talking about.
Good morning, citizens of Ireland. I'm here today outside the office of the Taoiseach and Taoiseach, where we are over 200 days into the formation of current government. In these times, this government has cost us our peace of mind, our security, our hope for the future, and the general well-being of Irish citizens nationwide has decreased dramatically, whereby we have seen the homelessness of Irish children risen to levels unprecedented, proving this government's refusal to abide by and respect our proclamation, and where all children of Ireland are to be cherished. Instead, our children abandoned. This incompetent failure of future generations has been accompanied with an intense influx of mass migration into an already severed system. Our tourism has sharply declined, while danger on our streets has risen. Ireland, as a master of martial combat, a solution-driven man, you will hear me speak on a problem but once, then it is action towards solution. I urge all our citizens to be of the same. Today, Ireland, I am outside these gates of these appointed officials, but as your head of state, you empower me to enter these buildings on your behalf. A president face-to-face with government officials, with only one priority: to ensure that the country our founding fathers gave their life for is strictly adhered to on behalf of its citizens. Ireland, under my tenure, the will of the people will be heard. Ireland, under my tenure, we will return important articles of our Constitution prior, and thus again aligning with Padraig Pearse's proclamation, in that we declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland and to the unfettered control of Irish destinies, to be sovereign and indefeasible Irish men and Irish women, in the name of God and of the dead generations from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood. Ireland, through us, summons her children to her flag and strikes for her freedom. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Yeah, so populist movements are springing up, and they're getting people like Conor McGregor here, is a former MMA fighter, and because the people want to be heard, their voice is not being listened to. The leaders think they know better. They think the citizens are a bunch of bigoted, xenophobic morons, that they don't know how to run a country. They don't know what's best for them. And they're just completely out of touch. And they're trying to cram down their throats an agenda that they are not interested in and that they think is actually detrimental to their well-being. So you're going to get this. You're going to get the AfD in Germany. These groups are gaining in power every single day, especially when you see shit like Graham Linehan getting arrested for a tweet. Somebody's going to have to come in and be a Trump-like figure and lay the smack down and say, no, enough is enough. We're done with this shit. And that's what's going to happen. It's coming. I mean, it is gaining momentum every day. What do you guys think? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is this going to lead to some kind of civil unrest? Meanwhile, well, before we leave Europe here, there's been this weird thing that's been going on. I've seen it a lot of posts about it. And it's this fact that 7 AFD members have died in like the last 2 or 3 months. These are not just members. These are people who are candidates for office. So AFD candidates are the targets of intelligence, espionage, warfare, lawfare, hoax trials, election bans. Tyranny has killed democracy, and now AFD candidates too. I don't know if this is true, that there's anything nefarious going on here, but it is very, very weird and very suspicious that there have been 7 of these members that are going to be candidates, and they've just died because people do not like the AFD, and there's something strange going on. So I'm not sure she addresses this, but let's take a look at what she
This
does.
office is a complete failure. Instead of attending to their proper task, they spy on the opposition with one goal in mind: to denounce the AFD as an enemy of the Constitution and fabricate a pretext for outlawing our party. Let's be clear, and this is what we want you to know, what we want the world to know what's going on in Germany. Influential politicians in Germany have their mind up on banning the strongest opposition party, on banning us, the alternative for Germany. They would eliminate a political force which will soon form the government in several East German regions. Furthermore, they want to ban a party and has caught up with and overtaken the Chancellor's party itself. It is grotesque, it is authoritarian, and yet this is a path they pursue, but they will not prevail. They will not prevail.
So the AFD is the populist party of the people. They're not the establishment, and the establishment hates these people because they're such a threat. They want the established parties. They want to keep control. They want to keep all the power to themselves. They want to keep, destroying the country. They want to keep suppressing the wages. The living standards in Europe have gone way below the living standards in the US, and we used to be identical almost. And now they've got these stupid policies to where, it's so impossible to even put an air conditioning unit in your flat. There's bureaucratic red tape for an AC unit. And so it's something like more people die from heat stroke because they don't have air conditioning in Germany than die from any other than car accidents. It's just like and this has to do with climate change and green initiatives and things like that, to where the regular person wants to just live their life and they want to have as much freedom as they can. And they're sick and tired of these people dictating their lives to them. So you get the AFD, they're gaining momentum. They're gaining traction every day because they're a grassroots driven bottom up party. And they can try to ban them all they want. It's just going to be another party because the sentiment is not going anywhere. is it's not really about the party. It's about the people and their experience in their country and the future that they want for themselves and for their country. And this is similar to what the Democrats tried to do with Trump. They tried to ban him from ballots so that it was impossible for him to get the nomination. And so Colorado and Maine, they tried, and it got overturned in court, thankfully, because that was some bullshit. Third world political undermining. And this is the same thing they're trying to do here. They're trying to get the AFD banned so they can't be in the running. They can't be voted for. The people can't get what they want because they're so threatened. And because they've let migrants flood into their country for the last 10 years and everybody's pissed off about it. Seen their wages go down. They've seen the cost of living go up. They've seen their housing supply taxed. They can't move out of their parents' house because there's nowhere to live or the cost is too much and the migrants have taken the jobs and all this kind of stuff. But the people who are in favor of this pat themselves on the back thinking that they've accomplished some kind of moral good while their own people suffer. Meanwhile, in the US, we've got wacko leftists doing stupid shit like this, where they're cramming transgenderism down everybody's throat because they see it as the civil rights movement of the modern day or something. It's not. It's a bunch of people with fetishes who are trying to normalize it. And it's driven mostly by white liberal women who want children to be indoctrinated to accept and to become and to transition. Now, this is probably a limited number of people who are going to do this, but for example, it is a social contagion, and it has been shown that it is, and it makes sense because if gender is a social construct, then you can as many people as you want can be part of it. It's not really based on anything innate. So what they want to do here, this is Washington State, a bunch of kooky, crazy liberals up there with Seattle. And this is their new state kindergarten sex ed. So they're teaching this to kindergartners. The objective that they have is kids can identify their own gender and name at least 3 gender identities. This is very crucial to be able to do in kindergarten, right? If this is an indoctrination, then I don't know what is. They know the same thing that everybody else knows, right? The same thing the Catholic Church has said in the past. You give me your son till the age of 7, I'll show you the man. If you can indoctrinate kids into a religion, into an ideology, into whatever when they're really young, then a large portion of them will not deviate from it. So this has nothing to do with whether this is accurate or scientific or good for the kids. They're trying to fuck these kids' heads up so they can't think straight right from day one. But they don't see it that way. They don't think that that's the case. They think that they're these good moral crusaders. And I guarantee you this is driven by a bunch of old white ladies. I guarantee it. So their key message is some people are boys, some people are girls, some people are both, and some people are neither. Wow, that's some great education. That's very clear. Yeah. You know, they're so obsessed. They claim that the conservatives are the ones obsessed with trans issues. That is not the case. It's just a reaction to their obsession with this because they are on a moral crusade. They think that this has been delivered from God on high, that this is the future of humanity and openness and inclusion. And it's not. These are some of the most closed-minded people you will ever meet in your whole life, are people who push this kind of shit. They are not interested at all in debate. They're not interested at all in talking or coming to a deeper understanding of anything. They're just ideologues who, for some reason, have attached themselves to this mental illness and this fetish world. And they don't even know anything about it. They don't even know. They're just attached to it. It's like it's same thing as a religion. Just I don't know why any of these things are true. I can't defend any of them, but I know they're true because that's what I was told and that's what my community says. So they are. Therefore, everybody has to acknowledge that it's true. It's just so stupid. So then this happening even in New Jersey, and that's what this lady here is talking about. So let's take.
Democrats have started targeting homeschooling families in New Jersey. So let's get into what all they're doing. First and foremost, New Jersey used to be one of the easiest states to homeschool in. They didn't make it difficult for you. There weren't a lot of regulations. You could pretty much do whatever you wanted. In June, a Democratic assemblyman put in for Assembly Bill 5825. This was going to completely change the entire New Jersey structure for their homeschooling programs. Basically, the Democratic Party has figured out that parents are pulling their kids from school because they're not okay with the morals being taught in public school. And they've figured out a way to make sure that they can still influence your children because now they're going to force you to teach them those morals at home. Included in the things that will have to be taught to your children is diversity, equity, and inclusion. This here highlights exactly what will be required, including gender identities and information about LGBT, starting at the age of 6 when your child is in kindergarten. This will be a requirement for all New Jersey homeschooling parents. Click follow to keep up with more homeschooling news.
So more of the obsession with this, with transgender, with DEI, this whole woke narrative that's kind of died out, but these people don't realize that there's just not the same kind of energy and interest in it anymore, but they're going to keep doing it because they are ideologically attached to it. Nobody thinks that it just becomes so clear that this kind of ideology is completely silly and ridiculous. And this is why these people were taking their kids out of these schools, because they're supposed to be about education. And these people want to make it about indoctrination. No different than if a Christian wants the Bible taught in school and wants religious education taught in public schools. That's the same thing that these people are trying to do. They're trying to indoctrinate people in their ideology. Instead of teaching them reading and math and comprehension and actual skills, they want to make this into a social crusade. And there's no exceptions. And these are the people that claim that they're inclusive, that they believe in diversity. They don't believe in diversity one bit. All they believe in is what they believe in. And anybody who disagrees are bad people who need to be eliminated, who are stupid, who are bigoted, who are racist, all that kind of stuff. The left is the least inclusive part of the political spectrum. So, all right, let me see. I see I got some comments here. Let me in all the mass shootings in schools, who committed the crimes? What does that have to do with anything? I'm not talking about mass shootings, but I don't know. Probably white kids. It's terrible. I mean, I don't like mass shootings, and nobody should. It's definitely mentally ill people who are doing it. I think we can all agree on that. Robert, that Washington, this is a new thing. So, if your kids went there, years ago or whatever, then that wouldn't have applied. This is something they're just starting now. So, MAGA are anti-American values, you must agree, and anti-Christian. what's anti-American about them? I mean, they believe in free speech, believe in the right to bear arms. They believe in the Constitution. They believe, I mean, I wouldn't say they're anti-American. You want to clarify some of that? Maybe that would be helpful. Anti-Christian. I mean, most people would say that MAGA is mostly Christians. So I'm not sure why you would think that. What do you think is anti-Christian? Is it just like the be nice to people thing is Christian? Is that what you're getting at? And they're not being nice to these people because they disagree? Okay. What's oh, you're talking about 14th Amendment, Section 3. Is that what where the insurrection stuff comes from? Is that what you're getting at, Robert? I don't know. I don't really think about J6. I think that they shouldn't have done what they did. So I agree with you on that. I'm not necessarily a Trumpite or a MAGA guy. I prefer to take things sort of issue by issue. But I know that the left has gone off the freaking rails. You know, so something's got to be done to stop these people. They are just out of their freaking minds. Well, you know, this is actually an interesting topic here. Does the Bible teach to help the fatherless, poor, and the immigrant? And I would say, yeah, probably. Yeah, it does. But actually, the best way that has been shown to help both of those is capitalism. Capitalism has taken care of the poor far more than any religion ever has. Far more beyond religion's wildest dreams. If you just look at the chart from the 1800s and of starvation or of poverty, any of that, everybody was on a subsistence level in 1800. Everybody was poor. People were starving left and right. You look at it to today, after capitalism spread around the globe, and there's almost no one. There's no starvation problem anymore. There's, you know, it has lifted 90 millions, billions of people out of poverty. So it's not, you know, that's not really a religious view. It's a secular thing, capitalism, and religion can't even compete with what it can do. Okay, so now I want to transition into a little bit of a different topic here. I want to talk about the youth. And well, before I get into that, actually, let's talk about these terrorists, I guess, drug dealers that Trump blew up. And they were bringing drugs from Venezuela. They're heading towards the U.S., and Trump sent missiles to blow up their boat. And people are kind of freaked out about this. But this is what Marco Rubio has to say about it.
For many, many years, established intelligence that allow us to interdict and stop drug boats. And we did that. And it doesn't work. Interdiction doesn't work because these drug cartels, what they do is they know they're going to lose, 2% of their cargo. They bake it into their economics. What will stop them is when you blow them up, when you get rid of them. The President of the United States is going to wage war on narco-terrorist organizations. This one was operating in international waters, headed towards the United States to flood our country with poison. And under President Trump, those days are over.
Yeah, so I don't think it's, nobody's going to feel bad for a bunch of drug dealers who are trying to smuggle drugs into the United States getting killed. That's, somebody has to do something about it. Why has no one done anything about these cartels and these drugs? All they do is they focus on the end product, the actual drug dealer on the corner will get arrested, but there's a whole string of problems that come before that and that originate in these other countries, like Venezuela, like Mexico. And it can be stopped, as everybody has seen in El Salvador, where there's basically no drug cartel there anymore. So this has been a thing that Trump's talked about for a long time. He does not like the cartels. He doesn't like drugs. He's anti that kind of stuff. And so these other countries don't seem to be that interested in working with him to solve this problem. So he's going at it unilaterally, and he's trying to strong arm Maduro in Venezuela into helping him, and he will. And this is, I think, a symbol. This is a message to Maduro to work with Trump instead of working with the cartels. And I mean, I think that Trump should, I would be for him sending in special forces into these places and just putting the smack down on these cartels. These are multi-billion-dollar businesses that are built on the backs of struggling, primarily poor people in the US. And they're taking over countries, they're infiltrating governments, they're paying off politicians, they're doing all this kind of crazy stuff. And they are terrorist organizations. I think that that's an accurate way to describe them. Just because they're sex trafficking, they're shooting people, they're doing all this stuff, and it's got to stop. People are so upset that Trump is finally bringing some law and order to things. It's like the left and the Democrats just love chaos. Why? And how is it that the trans community and the Muslims can be in the same group with the lefties? Because they don't have that much in common with Islam. Well, there's one factor, and that's that they both hate the West. They hate our way of life. The far left hates the West. They hate our history. They hate our accomplishments. They hate our culture. They hate everything about it. They want it to burn. They want revolution, and the Muslims agree. They don't want law and order. They think our laws are biased and terrible. They think it would be better for cartels to run unchecked than for us to actually enforce the rules and laws and put them in their place, while hundreds of thousands of people die in the streets from overdoses. Here's Tom Homan.
President Trump's going to seal that border. He's going to put the cartels out of business. He declared them a terrorist organization. We got the whole of government is going to dismantle these people and wipe them off the face of the earth. They're not going to go lightly. We're taking them out of the trafficking business. We're taking them out of the smuggling business. We're taking them out of the dope business. There's going to be more violence on the southwest border. That's why Trump committed to calling the terrorist organization. He has. That's why the entire United States government is going to take care of those people and abolish them. We're going to attack them not just in Mexico, but in the 42 countries that Jalisco cartel is currently residing in. The Trump administration is going to take them on just like he did the caliphate, and we're going to destroy them. President Trump will designate these cartels terrorist organizations, and he will wipe them off the face of the earth. I meant it. President Trump is doing that. The cartel's existence in the United States is very limited. They have killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined. Under Biden, 250,000 Americans died from fentanyl. They came across that open border. So President Trump's right. They're terrorists, and we're going to take them out. He's bankrupted them already. You just said it. They made record amounts of money under Biden, smuggling aliens, sex trafficking women and children, and dope. And with a secure border, we're bankrupting them. Now we're going to attack them. We're going to play the away game. You know, we're tired of playing the home game. We're going to play the away game now. And President Trump is committed to ending the cartel violence in this country. Look, there's some little cartels now in 42 countries across the globe. Again, their time in the United States is limited under President Trump.
Well, good. Get rid of them. They're useless. They're nothing but a drag and a negative asset. They do nothing good. They only cause problems. They steal innocent people and sell them for sex. Get rid of these people. I hope Trump goes full force. Crush them beyond repair. Let's see what Kash Patel has to say about this.
The direction for the FBI is to track down any individuals with any terrorist ties whatsoever, whether it be ISIS or another foreign terrorist organization, and now to include the new designations of the cartels down south and elsewhere.
All right. Yeah. Well, so who do you think gets protected the most by shutting down these cartels, stopping the flow of drugs and sex trafficking? It's children and it's the poor. Those are the people that this is going to affect the most, and it's going to be a huge positive for them. So if you actually believe in that we have a duty to protect our children and a duty to help the poor, this is a good thing. This is what we want to see. We want to see these cartels shut down, let them stop taking advantage of defenseless, innocent people, and let those people get their lives back, not have to be negatively affected by these assholes. So the final thing that I want to talk about is about the youth in the country, the Gen Z, the under 30 crowd, and sort of just the way things are going for them, and the problems I think that they're really going to experience. That not only that, but there's a lot coming up. So let's take a look at what this one guy said. I thought this sort of sums up kind of where the under 30 crowd is, and it gets worse the younger you get. So this guy says, I'm 28, so I'm on the border of Gen Z and millennial. I make decent money, but I get paid less than the older workers at my office, even though we do the same job. With rent and student loans, it's barely enough to stay afloat and very difficult to save. I live in Philly, where the cost of living is growing rapidly, and I spend all my time working. It makes it nearly impossible to give my girlfriend the attention she deserves, and she's always working too. And we realize that we might not be able to afford to have a baby. My parents didn't save for retirement, so we have to consider their old age costs as well. I didn't imagine our lives like this. I'm not against hard work at all, but it doesn't pay off. We're just managing our debt at this point. Home ownership and having a baby seem like a distant dream. This is a problem. I mean, they are feeling so squeezed. Their prospects are small. Their opportunities are limited. The cost of everything has gone up. How would somebody that stressed out even consider starting a family? So I wanted to give you guys some statistics to compare, because what usually happens is that people will just make this all about Gen Z being a bunch of whiny babies, and that there's not really a problem, that they just need to suck it up, buttercup, and work harder. So, but let's compare where they're at in life with where the boomers, what the opportunities the boomers had, because it's a stark contrast. So let's start with housing. When the boomers were 30, about half of them already owned homes. Okay. And the cost of a house was about 2.5 to 3 times your annual income. So do the math on that. I think the average income in the US is something like, per household, something like $60,000. So 3 times, that's $180,000 house. Somebody making $60,000 can afford a $180,000 house. But today, only 35% of under 30 own homes, and the prices are 6 to 8 times income, more than double, almost triple the ratio of what they were for the boomers. So now, if you're making $60,000 a year, it's not a $180,000 house. It's a $360,000 to $500,000 house that you're going to have to buy, and you can't afford that on $60,000. So they pay about 30 to 40% of rent of their paycheck in rent. They don't have down payments. They don't have money to save up. So, and it's because wages haven't kept up. Since 1979, productivity in the US has climbed 64%, but wages have only gone up 17%. A single income once supported a family. Now 2 barely even cover rent, childcare, and food. And it's not their fault that the costs went up and the wages didn't. They've inherited this situation. So they're not lazy. Not only that, let's look at the college tuition. In the 70s, public tuition cost about $3,000 a year in today's money. $3,000 to go to college. So most of these people, they graduate, if they went to college, they graduated debt-free. So what's the average tuition now? It's about $14,000 a year, which that even seems low. But so these people will graduate with, who knows, $50,000 in debt, $100,000 in debt. Tuition has grown 8 times faster than wages. Just to think of that. It's gone up 800% faster than wages. How's that sustainable? So these kids, they can't go and get a bachelor's degree for $3,000. And then there's the entry-level jobs. AI is starting to wipe them out. The entry-level professional jobs that you need when you're coming out of college. So you come out of college, you got your $50,000 college debt. You're lucky to get a job. Your rent's super high. Your food costs are super high. You go and try to get your first job. Oh, well, there are no entry-level jobs anymore. Person coming out of college, that's the kind of job you can get. We're replacing those jobs with AI because it can do them for free, basically. And not only that, but the wealth is locked up at the top. When the boomers, by the age of 30, they held about 20% of U.S. wealth. That's a lot for that generation. Today, for these kids under 30, they barely own 3 to 4%. Just imagine that. Look at how much disparity there is now. And the rungs are gone for them to climb up What about, let's look at family stability. In 1960, only 9% of kids lived with a single parent. And we all know, there's tons of studies about this, that single parent homes, the kids struggle more. For these kids under 30, nearly 1 in 3 kids, almost 30% of these kids were raised in single parent homes. There's another thing stacked against them. And then there's the relationship issues. By 30, 60% of boomers were married because they're more financially stable. Today, only 22% of Gen Z under 30 are married. Sex is declining. In 1990, just 8% of men 24 to 30 hadn't had sex in the past year. Now 24% of all 18 to 29-year-olds have not. And this leads to low birth rates, obviously. Another issue is the community life. Gen Z, they're chronically online. They're lonely. When boomers grew up with strong anchors of community, churches, unions, neighborhood groups. In the 70s, 60% of young adults attended church monthly, for example. Now it's 28% of Gen Z. Instead, they've got social media, where they spend 7 to 8 hours a day on their screen, even though 20% of teens say that it hurts their mental health. And loneliness has exploded. The Surgeon General in 23 declared that this was a public health crisis. Nearly 60% of young adults say they are seriously lonely. And we think that they're the loneliest demographic in America. It used to be, middle age was the worst time. And now it's these under 30 people who are as lonely as can be, living isolated by themselves, doom scrolling. Are we going to expect those people to be productive? To even have this sort of stamina and backing and to move up? And then there's no trust in any of the institutions anymore. In the 70s, 70% of Americans trusted the government to do the right thing. And the Gen Z today, it's about 20%. Confidence in media, higher education, religion, all of them at historic lows. And then you get the climate change issue. 60% of 16 to 25-year-olds say they're very or extremely worried about climate change because they've been terrified by their liberal teachers into it. And 57% say it makes them hesitant to have children. 57% of them are hesitant to have children because of climate change. So there's also this downward mobility. 90% of boomers out-earned their parents. Today, only 50% of young people will. That's huge. It used to be your parents were here, you did better than your parents, then your grandkids did better than you, or your kids did better than you, your grandkids did better than them, and it was this ladder. That's going away. In 1970, only 25% of 18 to 29-year-olds lived with their parents, a quarter of them. In 2020, it was 52%, highest since the Great Depression. Beyond the student loan debt, they also have credit card debt. They can't afford health insurance. Also, there's violence. For Gen Z, guns are now the #1 cause of death under 20, surpassing car accidents. And in addition to that, among 15 to 24-year-olds, fentanyl deaths rose 109% between 2019 and 2021. So there's all these factors that go on that go into this. I think primarily economic factors are the most concerning. There aren't the opportunities. There is not the pathway. I think that these kids, they need to, at least the young men need to say, forget this 4-year college stuff, go into a trade, be an electrician, be a plumber, be a welder. These are good jobs. And you can work for yourself eventually if you want, which is even better. And I think that's where we're actually headed. And a lot of these colleges are going to end up shutting down because there's just not going to be enough student enrollment because we're not having enough kids. So take a look at this chart I have here. This is 4-year colleges are going away. They're going to have to start consolidating. So this is what college enrollment is going to look like in the next 4 years. Here's 2025. I don't know, here maybe. After 2026, wow, steep drop off. Who's going to be paying for these colleges as this is happening? You think they're going to fire administrators? Do you think they're going to cut their costs? They're going to make it cheaper to go to school? No. The people who run these institutions are too stupid. So what is this really all about? This all started in 2007, the trend. This is the trend in US birth rates. So in 2007, 18 years ago, obviously it's the 18-year-olds who go to college. This is what happened to the birth rates after the financial crisis. Down, 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 down. Now they could make a lot of speculations as to why that is, why that one's instance. But, I'm not sure why. I don't know. Because usually you see a trend in birth rates going down as people get wealthier. So would this indicate that people got wealthier after 2007 financial crisis? When people get poorer, which I think that this is kind of trying to imply, and the Post is trying to imply, is that people got poorer and it got more difficult to have children. And so people decided not to. I'm not so sure that's the case, but I know that this is a dangerous trend and it lines up with this college enrollment. So this is where it starts, where that trend starts, right here. These are now the kids who are 18. Number of 18-year-olds. Well, people weren't having kids. So now that as they come of age, you just get fewer and fewer and fewer of them. Now, one of the things could be issuing visas, student visas, and which is probably what these colleges are going to appeal to bring in money, bring in the wealthy foreigners into their colleges to pay their high tuitions, and bring them by the millions, because we're talking 1.5 million people over in a 5-year span. So 300,000 people a year you have to bring in, flood the colleges, be basically all foreigners going to a lot of these. If they want to stay open, that's probably what their option is going to have to be. Which is interesting because a lot of these colleges and universities are funded by taxpayers as well. So a portion of your property tax goes to the school to fund it. So you're going to have people in the country, the citizens, paying for the school that's educating foreigners to go back to their countries, and maybe that makes for good relations. I don't know. So let's see if I've got anything else. I think that's all I have for you guys. Yeah, I think we're just going to call it good there. I appreciate everybody joining me. If you've got any final comments, I would be happy to take a look. If you're listening on X, you got to come over to YouTube to comment. So if there's nothing else, you guys, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks for your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and comment on the videos. That really helps boost the channel, helps me be more motivated as well. So I appreciate it. Have a great day.